And then what's weird is then you had this scenario where it's almost like the story's reversing from before when Rekkles left. So now Upset's in Fnatic, but he chooses not to play and he sits on the bench. And then Rekkles comes in and plays in the team, but Upset's still on the bench. Like, can you give me some thoughts on what happened in that regard? Like, why not sell Upset, or why did he choose to stay in the team? Like, was the logic, was he actually potentially going to like wait and then maybe in a later split he might have come back into the team? What was the logic on having them both at the same time?
Yeah. Well, it's not fully accurate that it was not him rejecting to play, let's say, for 2023. Okay. That is not the case. That was a decision from our side, from the management, the coaching, etc. That we felt that we needed to go into a different direction in there. Then we obviously had this was one of the hardest of seasons, and that we have had because we had, let's say, some priorities, some plans, and for many different reasons they were falling apart. And it's not that we ended up in the absolute last options that we had, but let's say that we had other priorities in front of what we ended up with that, as I said, for numerous reasons didn't work. And we tried to find a new house for all our players, and in this case for Upset too. There was even like potential trade for some other AD carry in other org and all this, and this was even almost done deal until suddenly it out of nowhere, like, just they changed complete direction, and this affected a bit the plans on, and it could have been completely different, like the off season, if that change of plans or that last minute change from the other org when we had like almost verbally agree everything, like well, if that doesn't happen, as I said, like we would have been in a complete different situation. So yeah, like, but we had already taken the decision that we were going to look for a different bot lane, so we were committed to that, and then we were looking at the options available. We had Rekkles, we had a couple of more out there, and the decision of why to go to Rekkles, it was more his hunger to go back to Fnatic was very big. Like, he really wanted to come back to Fnatic, and that to me, it's something that proves something, like proves a point. Like, we want players that are really committed to being here, and for him coming back to Fnatic was a really big thing. And also, basically, we were coming from a player that even when it didn't work out for him in G2, he was still one of the top performing in his role. And I didn't expect that year in Karmine Corp would have done such a big damage, let's say, to his confidence or his way of playing or anything like that. So for me, it was on the options that we have available, the highest ceiling one is Rekkles for sure. Like, if Rekkles is committed, if he's aligned with the team and he's on the same page from a purely in-game, let's say, talent, his ceiling will be higher than the other options that are available right now in the market. So that was the train of thought that we followed there in order to go out for Rekkles. I have to say that there were at least 3 or 4 more teams that were like pursuing him at that moment. Like, so that it is not that makes us go for a player or anything like that, but it means that it was not only us who were interested in him in the LEC. And then, obviously, similar to what I said in the AD carry position, we had other priorities in the support role that they didn't work. And then we were in a situation where we had to choose ERL talent that it's unproven, and there was not any big name. Like, let's say, for example, when we signed Adam and SLT were like the outstanding names of the ERL in the top lane. In that moment, there was no outstanding name in the support role. There was not someone like, I don't know, Parus, like, or Soelis, like, that have been very outstanding this year, and they have been names that have performed very well into the AEL. That there was not such, and then we had other players, like, if I recall correctly, Lavrov, who involved a buyout, and we were in that year, like in that start of the change of the reality financially, that we could not invest into buyouts. So we could not, like, we didn't have money to put into buyouts. So for us, that was not an option, because we were not getting that let's say, what you were saying before, that you have a player, you sell it, and then you can buy another one. We were not getting offers for our players, so we couldn't just say, okay, we put money into I cannot go to my finance team and say, okay, I sell my players for very little amounts, but then I have to pay this for the player that I want. Then it doesn't work like that, especially in that situation, in this new reality financially that we are. And then we were, like, out of options, basically. Like, there were not many options, and what we had was a player that had been in our academy for 2 years. He had good moments and not that great moments, but in general, his strengths were coming from leadership, were coming from, let's say, being a bit of the captain of the team, which is Rocks. He had to play for Hilisan in Worlds because of the COVID. From a performance standpoint, he just played a couple of games there, so that we cannot judge how good he would fit on the team or not based on that. But the reality is that in those games and the scrims that led to that game, he did fine with the team and he performed at a good level. But especially during Worlds, he strengthened a lot the relationship with all our players. And he, even as a substitute in Worlds, he was performing a leader role within the team, helping so much the other players to develop themselves. So we were in a situation where we didn't have a lot of options in the market. We were not very excited about many of them. Like, the one or two that could be exciting were involved in buyouts that we could not afford. And we had this player that was in our academy that had great leadership, like, and that was already in really good relationship with our players. And we felt that he could fit very well that. And that our team was missing a bit of that, like, together with Razorg, that normally brings a lot of that energy and a lot of that leadership. So, as I said, we are not normally very afraid of taking risks, and this one looked as something that could make sense. Did it make sense at the end? No. It was the worst decision that I have taken probably since I am, like, in Fnatic. It has been to put together, like, that roster, because they didn't fit well. And I think we took the worst decision for good reasons, because I think the reasons that we took them for were valid and it could have worked, but it didn't, and it was the biggest failure possible. I think that was also a bit of momentum, that it was a combination of completely collapsing with the new format, and the new format made it look way worse. I think if that would have been, I am very confident about what I'm going to say, if that would have been a regular, normal spring split, I think we end up top 5 as it happened in the year that we spoke before when we signed afterwards, Adam. I think it would have been completely similar. But the fact that it was the new format, you make it top 8 or you are out, the pressure that it was coming with that, all people, like, raging into us, then it made it completely unsustainable, and then the whole team, the whole coaching staff, everyone collapsed because of that.
As much as there might have been this disappointment from the winter split and that roster didn't work out that you put together, by the time it got to the end of the season, though, the team was again in like a pretty good spot. Like obviously it finished third in the summer, and then in the season finals, it made the actual final that and went to Worlds. And this was, if you look, from roster moves. It wasn't like it was just the same 5 players and, you know, they got together and worked it. No, the people saw, like, again, piece by piece, roster moves happened. And then by the end, it was a functional team that could go there. Do you take satisfaction that you were able to sort of right the ship or fix the problem?
Yeah, no, I mean, I take it for sure. As I said, I will repeat myself here, but I would never be proud of losing. Like, I really want to win, and that is my biggest goal. And every time that we make second, it's not that I am celebrating that we are second. I am like having a really hard time when we lose these finals. But at the same time, I have to be realistic. I have to be. I think right now G2 has a way bigger budget, and we lost some of the pieces that we wanted to G2. Like in the last of season, that is the reality. We were interested also in some of the players that they have right now. Easy, we only changed the bot lane, so easy one to guess. But yeah, as I said, what I cannot be is embarrassed about our results. Like playing 3 out of 4. Well, playing the 4 finals, like let's say what Riot calls finals, which is the top 3. Like we have played the 4 finals of the 4 years that I have been here, and we have placed top 2, 3 out of the 4 times in summer, and we have qualified for the 4 World Championship. Like I cannot be embarrassed about that. Like I think any team would want to be as consistent as we are, because even a team like G2 didn't make Worlds in 21.
Yeah, that's true.
Even a team like Rogue didn't make Worlds this year. Like like all these teams that are at the very top, like many times the Mad Lions, I think at least a couple of times they didn't make it into even groups.
Yes.
Like, so they have had, I think, and this is what it's punishing so much, and it hurts, of course, but they have had some very brilliant moments where they have been able to take a trophy or take a split or anything like that, and we haven't been able to do that, but we have been more consistent than anyone else at the top. And would I change the consistency for some trophies? Yeah, I mean, yeah, trophies is what everyone remembers at the end of the day, and that's what we want to accomplish, but I don't want, like, for me, consistency is also a really big thing and something that we are working really hard to get. And I think if we keep with this consistency, it will be a matter of time that we get the titles. But if you are not consistent, if you don't have the answer to get back into the top, even when you have challenges, then it's when probably you might lose yourself at some point.
See more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or, you know, be a pleb and don't.